Good morning, y'all. It is Monday, March 2nd, 2020. So I was thinking about if I wanted to make a video or not, and I decided I did because my weekend of cooking was actually rather amusing. So apparently I have a bigger learning curve with this whole not out of a box, out of a can cooking, I suppose. I don't know how to put it, but pretty much everything I tried to make had a problem. So Saturday I made these, they were supposed to be like little frittatas. Oh god, I hate these bumps. The roads get so bad when the winter is starting to end and the roads aren't like flattened by snow. Now it's just bumps and split concrete and asphalt. So I started out by trying to make these little frittatas with let's see, it had onions and mushrooms and broccoli and it had some other stuff. Can't remember what else it had. Onions, broccoli, red potatoes? Yeah, red potatoes. Mushrooms, and then the liquid was supposed to be partly chickpea flour. So I'd gotten dried chickpeas last weekend, I think it was. I'm pretty sure it was last weekend. And I have my NutriBullet, so I put the dried chickpeas in the NutriBullet and turn it on, and the sound is like deafening. And I can hear the dried chickpeas hitting the side of the plastic container. And I'm like, it's gonna break it. Shockingly, somehow it didn't. But I am still nervous to try it again because I feel like they hit hard enough that they could break it. So I'm gonna see if I can find a better way. I don't need to break the container. I mean, I guess we can get replacements if worse comes to worse, but anyway. So I make this chickpea flour, and I go to use it, and like some of it's powdery and some of it's chunky, so I put it back in and I run it through some more, and it looks like it's really churning good, so I was like, okay, it must be all powder now. Didn't really check it thoroughly the second time. So then I mix it in with the liquids, and I don't know why I'm yelling. I mix it in with the liquids and pour it, or mix it in with the vegetables as well, and go to put it in my little cupcake holders in the pan. And immediately I can see that it's a little bit grainy. I thought, well, it's probably not that bad. It'll break up. Cook it, and it comes out, like the vegetables come out super dry, and it's got this hard, crusty, chunky crust of this chickpea chunks. Thankfully, my husband will eat about anything, but I did not enjoy it. And on top of that, I did not saute the vegetables long enough, so they weren't really that cooked. I sauteed them and then thought they would kind of cook the rest of the way in the oven, but they did not. So yeah, overall that was a total flop for me. But since then, I have gotten a sifter so that when I make more chickpea flour, I can sift it. And that should reduce that problem. And then next time I know to saute the vegetables a little longer, because I think that would actually be a really good one if made correctly. So my next adventure that day on Saturday was to make bread. I was trying to make like naan bread, N-A-A-N, not N-O-N, and I used I had some dry active yeast from a while ago, and I mixed that in, and I can't find the cup scooper, so I was using the half cup scooper. So I put everything together, I put all the flour in, and I'm mixing it, and it's like really runny batter. And I'm like, well, what the hell? So I'm mixing, thinking maybe if I keep mixing, it'll thicken up as I mix. And I'm mixing, and I'm mixing, and I'm mixing, and and I add a little more flour, and I mix and I mix and I mix, and I add a little more flour. I mix and I mix, and it's not getting any thicker. So then I dumped like a whole nother scoop in of flour, and I'm mixing, and it's getting a little bit better, but not dough consistency. So finally I dump another scoop in, and I'm like, what the fuck is going on? Finally I realize that about the time that the dough gets consistent of dough, I realized that I was using the half cup scoop, not the cup scoop. So where I should have had 2 full cups, I had put 2 scoops of the half cup, so 1 cup of flour. So I was a whole cup short, which is why it was so runny for so long. So I get it to the dough consistency, I put it in the bowl, and I put on the timer to let it rise. And I come back an hour later, and it hasn't risen. It's not rising at all. So my first thing is I check my dry active yeast. Oh, well, that expired over a year ago. Okay. But in the article I'm reading, it says that you can still make like a flatbread or whatever, which is what I was going to make with it anyway. So I roll it out, and I make these naan breads, or whatever it ended up being. And they came out pretty good. First one was way too thick, so the next ones I made a lot thinner, and those came out pretty good. And so next time I went and got more yeast, some, non-expired yeast, and next time I know to use the right scooper, and I know to roll them thin. So I'm gonna, instead of cutting it into 8 pieces, I'm gonna cut it into like 12, because they were a little big. And we kept them in a Ziploc baggie in the microwave, which actually kind of worked out because they stayed warm and moist. But as soon as you pulled them out of the fridge, like when I made the hummus and pesto, I pulled one out, which I'll get to that in a minute. I pulled one out to eat the pesto and hummus with, and before I got halfway through it, it was like drying and hard and not soft at all. So yeah, the bread was kind of a flop, but I'm going to try again. I got plenty of flour, I got more yeast, I got plenty of the other ingredients I need. So I'm going to play with that one until I get it right, because I love naan bread, and pita bread, and so it kind of came out like pita bread a little bit, but thinner and denser. It was really dense. I was hoping for it to be a little more airy, but maybe I just didn't blend it right or mix it right. We'll see. If the first packet of the dry active yeast doesn't come out more airy naturally because of the yeast doing its thing, then I'll figure out what else I need to do to make it a little fluffier, because it was really dense. And then, so that was Saturday. So I made 2 things, and they were both kind of flops in my opinion. So Sunday I get up, and what did I make? Well, I looked through the books and couldn't really find anything I wanted, but then I found this ginger carrot soup in my Ayurvedic cooking book, and it kind of sounded good. I got carrots to use up, I got fresh ginger. I'm like, hell yeah, let's just do it. The worst thing that could happen is that it's gross. Let's try it. So I start making it, and I realize I still had those vegetables from the basic broth that I had made, which the recipe for the ginger carrot soup actually called for that broth, but it wanted 4 cups, and the recipe only makes 2 cups. It was actually less than 2 cups. So whatever, I added vegetable broth. I probably added more than I needed though, because it came out really runny. So then I was like, okay, well, I'm gonna add, because the whole thing gets pureed, so I added the vegetables from the broth, and then the rest of the other sauce I had made with the vegetables that came out really bland. So I added that in too, and then blended it. That actually came out pretty decent, other than it's a little thinner than I would like, and I feel like it's missing something. I don't know if it's like the texture. I think it's the texture. It's missing something texture-wise, and I can't figure out what it is. But that one actually, I wouldn't consider a flop. I think that one came out good. Not my favorite, but again, I didn't follow the recipe exactly. I added other things. So I still have carrots and ginger. So once I'm done with this soup, I can make the like actual recipe and see if I like that. Using the ginger was a little different. I've never cooked with ginger really. I made a tea one time a long time ago and it came out way too strong. But yeah, I need to start making some ginger tea too. That's really, really good for you. So that came out okay. And then I decided I was going to make the cilantro pesto, but it was cilantro and something else. Damn, why can't I remember anything? Anyway, so I'm gonna make this this pesto, and I've been wanting to make a pesto for a long time. I love cilantro. I had cilantro sitting in the fridge from last week that was about to go bad, and I needed a way to use it up fast. So again, none of my recipes I had like exact amounts of things, so I just threw it in. I put it in the NutriBullet and I start trying to mix it, and like there's not enough volume in there, so it all just like flew to the sides and then stuck to the sides, and the blades were just spinning. So I kept having to shake it down and scoop it down, add a little more lemon juice so that it was like liquidy enough to start hitting the blades, and it took a good 10 minutes for it to get enough. I added onions and I added some kale, and I kept adding pumpkin seeds to try to give it enough volume to hit the blades once it started blending. Finally, after about 10 minutes of playing around with the damn NutriBullet and scooping, I got a decent consistency. But I haven't gone, I ate some of it while I was making it, and it was pretty good, but I'm interested to see if I come back and use it again, if it's still going to be, like, if I'm still going to like it. My original idea was to make rice and top my rice with it. So maybe a little lime juice on top of it, with it, and the rice. We'll see. I'll let you know on that one, maybe. I'll try to remember to. So then, that was like a struggle. And then I want to make hummus. So I put all the ingredients together for hummus, and this time I used garbanzo beans out of the can rather than dried. And I put it in the NutriBullet, and I'm mixing it, and it's so dry that it's like, again, sticking to the sides and not going down on the blades to get mixed the rest of the way. So again, I'm scooping and adding, trying to get it liquidy enough and creamy enough to like hit the blades so it can fully mix. And then my husband steps in because he thinks I'm struggling now, so he's like trying to be helpful, which wasn't helpful, but I kept adding a little bit of vegetable broth to try to, liquefy it a little bit. He comes in and dumps like a shit ton of vegetable broth in there, and I was like, dude, you're gonna make it runny. So we finally got it creamy enough to mix, and that actually came out really good. I added a jalapeno, and I used my Mexican blend spices that I made from one of the books, that has like chili powder and cayenne and pepper flakes and a bunch of other stuff. I think it's got cumin. So I added that. I think it even has dill in with the hummus, and it came out really good. It's really creamy, and it's got kind of a slight kick at the end. So I really like how that came out. That was the one thing that wasn't a total flop so far. Well, not the one thing. The soup was okay. The pesto, we'll see. But it definitely was successful. I just know to add more liquid to start with next time. So it was like everything I made was a struggle. It was getting kind of frustrating. And then I was going to make a stir fry for dinner. But I was going to make a stir fry for dinner, and I was going to try my first homemade creamer, because I have a can of coconut cream to use up. But by the time we got done grocery shopping, I was just done, and still didn't go to bed on time, but I was too tired to make anything else. So yeah, I just thought it was interesting that, like, I've been cooking for a long time, at least 20 years, off and on, and my skills are still so rusty that I struggled with everything I made. But hopefully that's like the learning curve, and I learned a lot of lessons from this weekend, to check dates. And actually last weekend when we tried to make it's supposed to be like a Thousand Island dressing, same thing. The mustard that I had that I had never been opened, so I didn't think it was going to be bad, but it was bad. It was rancid. It was so gross. So that was no good. So I'm learning to check dates before I use stuff, because I tend to like let things sit and not throw things away. I hate wasting things. So I need to check my dates better. And why are we at a dead stop? To probably add more liquids to things to start with, so that it's not such a struggle. And then having the right amounts of things also could help in that. So, little by little, I'll figure it out. But I thought I'd share my adventurous weekend of cooking and all of my struggles. So that's going to be it for today. Don't have much else to say, and traffic just like came to a dead stop in a weird spot. So, well, not a dead stop. I'm doing like 12 miles an hour. But I'm going to let y'all go. I hope everybody had a great weekend, and I will see y'all later. Bye.